Get ready. We have a great show coming up. You're going to be inspired by the enduring sacrifice to achieve personal growth when Keith Burnet shares his story as our guest this week on the Fitness Business Podcast. If you are looking to learn more about processes and automation to help your business or team run more efficiently, then you need to check out episode number 341 with Brittany Welk, COO of Lady Strong Fitness. And boy, let me tell you, she delivers. Hey, and finally, if you get value from any of our shows, we would be so grateful in advance of you posting a review on iTunes. Did you ever want to check off a personal goal from your bucket list? I'm Dory Nugent, the host of the Fitness Business Podcast, and today's guest did exactly that. Keith Burnet, the CEO of Global Market for LesMills International, is going to tell his story about his drive and determination to complete a 42-day journey across the Atlantic Ocean. We will hear from Keith in about 2 minutes. First, a huge thank you to Rex Roundtables for supporting our show.
Professional facilitation with a group of non-competing owners to stay ahead of the industry curve is the USP of Rex Roundtables. To find your local roundtable, go to rexroundtables.com. That's rexroundtables.com.
Thank you, Rex Roundtables. And if you want to learn more about Rex Roundtables, make sure you check out their website at www.rexroundtables.com.
Get your pen ready now for Keep Me's Fit Bizpiration.
Now, we all know that we can't all row the Atlantic, although you said we probably could. But I'd love for you to give your 3 top tips to implement any of these lessons into our lives.
Sure, love to. Yeah, turning your learning into tangible personal growth is not easy, but the best way I've found to sort of accelerate that is to experience or relive certain situations that involve dealing with some sort of adversity or hardship along the way. So I'm a real advocate of the jump in and sink or swim school of thought. So the 3 big things for me would be, number 1, take on a personal challenge. Doesn't matter how big or small, but try to do it outside in the world and in some place you've never been before. Number 2 would be never to be too busy for family and friends. It's so easy to say, hey, let's catch up, but do you really mean it? And so mean it and make it happen. Number 3 for me would be, strangely enough for me saying this, but would be smile more. You know, I read something the other day, 2 out of 3 people need help with smiling. Due to our sort of psychological wiring, I read that we are 31% smarter with a positive frame of mind. So do what it takes to put yourself in a positive frame of mind would be my 3rd actionable item.
I know I say this all the time, but next week's interview is just incredible. I interview Kia Williams, and she talks about creating inclusive practices in your business. Now, after this week's full interview, I'm going to take a moment and I'll introduce you to Kia, and you'll hear why you need to come back to hear her interview next week. MyZone has pioneered unique wearables with talking point technology that makes the difference. Reach more members of your community and keep them engaged for longer through motivation and gamification wherever they choose to work out. In the gym, at home, or outdoors, we're stronger together. Get in the zone at myzone.org. Let's transition into this week's interview with Keith. Today is a special episode as I have Keith Burnet with me today, the CEO of Global Market for LesMills International. Kind of a different type of episode today. We're actually going to hear about an amazing journey that Keith took. Keith, first of all, you know what? Let me just welcome you to the show and welcome you to all of our FBP family out there listening today.
Thanks, Dory. Great to be on. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
So you took this incredible, amazing journey. Please correct me if I'm wrong. 42 days, 3,000 miles across the Atlantic Ocean. You were in kind of like a small boat vessel, and you call it pretty much eat, sleep, row, and repeat. And you did this during the pandemic.
That's right. Yeah, we left 12th December. I got in towards the end of January, 42 days later. Left from the Canary Islands and ended up in Antigua in the Caribbean.
So while we were all celebrating Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, New Year's, let's see, Valentine's Day, were you still out there for Valentine's Day? Or were you back?
Not quite,
okay.
But yeah.
So while we're all having those great celebrations, drinking our hot chocolate and opening gifts, you are out in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean trying to figure out how to probably get a shower, go to the bathroom, not be seasick. Am I right?
All of those things and a few more, yeah. We're 2 hours of rowing, 2 hours on, 2 hours off, 24/7.
Well, I know JT is dying to know how you went to the bathroom out there, but I think we'll just kind of leave that to the imagination of our listeners, and you can just email JT that answer.
Happy to share, but maybe I'll just email him.
All right, so we're going to run things a little differently today. Normally it's an interview style here on the podcast, but I'm actually going to just hand the mic over to you. And, for the next 20 minutes, you're just going to take our listeners, myself, on this incredible journey with you of the experience that you had out on the Atlantic Ocean. So Keith, please take it away.
Thanks, Dory. Yeah, so the best place to start really for me is because part of this for me is telling a story that helps to share some of my learnings and what they might mean for others. And to do that, I think it's important to try and give you a bit of a sense of what it was like. The only way I know to do this, other than actually doing it, which is possibly not an option, is just through a bit of visualization. So for just maybe a couple of minutes, if I could just indulge people to maybe close their eyes and I'll just kind of talk through the experience. So imagine it's midnight, 24th, 25th December, Christmas Eve or day for many of us, when you would be with family and friends at home in a warm bed. Instead, you're in a 25-foot rowing boat in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. You're 1,000 miles from the African coastline and 2,000 miles from the Caribbean. You haven't seen land for 2 weeks, or a boat, or another human being other than the three guys that I was doing this with. The waves are bigger than a 3-story building. It's totally pitch black. There's no moon and no stars. You're in your cabin, this tiny little thing that sort of sleeps one person. It sort of feels a bit like a washing machine, or being inside a washing machine. You've got the noise of the water, the tightness of the space, the turbulence. And your alarm has just gone off, and for the 5th time in the last 24 hours. And as you sort of wake, you're totally disorientated. It doesn't kind of feel like you've been asleep. And you're just trying to clamber out of the washing machine-like cabin for your 5th 2-hour rowing shift that day, and you're stepping into this sort of black box, if you can imagine. And as you do that, a wave comes over the top of the boat and knocks you over, and you're lying in the gunnels of the boat, soaking wet, very salty. And you're trying to pick yourself up, and all you can hear is the laughter of the other boys on the oars. Total kind of madness. You're staggering along the deck, tripping over multiple things to change over with one of your teammates. And as you see, you're sitting into the seat, you're just trying to get yourself comfortable. Your ass is pretty sore. Your hands are trying to grip the oars. They're really painful as they start to kind of warm up. You just try to get into your stroke, but you can't actually see the water because of the horizon and the sky are kind of all merged, and the waves are sort of hitting you from the side. And as they're hitting from the side, one oar is above the other, and the water is sort of coming over the top of you. So you're sort of sat there in this pool of salt water. And as if that wasn't enough, just suddenly out of nowhere, you get this sort of slap across the face, and it's this flying fish that hits you in the face. And your heart, if you can imagine the fright of the heart, your heart almost like jumps out your chest, and it's just like so crazy, you just kind of have to laugh, really. And yeah, welcome to the Atlantic Ocean. So if you open your eyes, I can tell you the story about the world's toughest row. This is the Talaskar Whiskey Atlantic Challenge. It starts in La Gomera in the Canary Islands and requires a bunch of teams to row unaided 3,000 miles across the Atlantic to Antigua. We rowed 2 hours on, 2 hours off, 24/7 for 42 days. And when I rowed into English Harbour in Antigua, it was my 256th rowing shift. And it's no surprise that more people have been into space or climbed Everest than have rowed the Atlantic. You know, we endured terrible seasickness. The weather was pretty extreme. You've got giant waves. The total physical, mental exhaustion is tough. You know, you dealing with things like burnt eyeballs from sun exposure, salt sores, blisters, lack of food. The list kind of goes on. You sort of get the drift, I think. But strangely enough, we experienced one of the most spectacular adventures of our lives with some amazing life lessons, which I want to share with you today. The first one that is always a great place to start, which is all about belief, which I call I'm possible. And the irony of the word impossible is that it contains the opposite. So what is really impossible? What is only kind of a matter of a limited point of view. To row an ocean, there is a challenge kind of within a challenge. I mean, just getting to the start line is tough enough. To raise the money to do it during a global pandemic where, you know, the training that we did was really just limited to the indoor rower. And if everyone knows the indoor rower well, it's the most unused machine in the gym, and there's a reason for that. So all that training, limited time on the water, which meant that we were really just learning to row the Atlantic in the Atlantic. And within this challenge, my backstory is that, I used to be an ex-rugby guy with a good injury history, 4 back surgeries, a broken neck, all sorts of other bits and pieces, which, you know, really means that if an old guy like me with a knackered back with literally no preparation during a global pandemic can row an ocean, then anyone can. And I really believe that. You know, we all have limiting beliefs, but the trick really is not to allow them to restrict how you tackle life. So anything is possible. Number 2 of my life lessons I want to share is this idea that to inspire others, you really need to first inspire yourself. So for me, if 42 days being sat in what I would call the armchair of planet Earth doesn't inspire you, then nothing will. At home, we sleep for a third of a 24-hour day for most of us. But in the Atlantic, you're really living it 24/7 from sunset to sunrise. You get to see day turned into night, night turned into day, and our whole planet in action, almost rotating. You can almost feel it rotating on its axis, all the changing currents and the weather and the wildlife, which was just truly, truly amazing. So for me, leadership is really simple, and it's about just inspiring people to be at their personal best. But to do that, you need to be inspired yourself. And to inspire yourself, frankly speaking, for me, you need to get off your ass and do some stuff. That stuff doesn't have to be anything like rowing an ocean, but it's got to be something that will stretch you and get you out of your comfort zone. So that's number two. Number three that I want to share is this whole idea of what I call just row harder. And what I believe is that, hard work beats talent every day of the week. And for us, in this journey, the first 2 weeks of the row were mentally and physically probably the toughest thing I've ever done in my life. Everyone is adjusting to their own ways, to the boat, the food, the routine. And if you can kind of imagine training in the gym or going for a hard run or doing a HIIT class where you're just sort of hanging on until the end, just to almost get to the end of the workout, and the instructor sort of says, 2 more repetitions and you're done, and you can sort of mentally get to the end when you might have given up. Well, imagine the sort of sensation when it's knowing that it's not two more repetitions, but it's another 6 weeks. So mentally, it's a tough thing to kind of wrap your head around. You're sort of really struggling to deal with this sort of routine of 2 hours on, 2 hours off. And for me, that was compounded by the fact that I was really, really badly seasick for probably the first 10 days, where literally 10 times a day I was sort of spontaneously throwing up. And the only thing I think I became properly good at was being sick, and it's certainly a great way to lose weight. But there was this guy called Tom who used to ring us every day on the satellite phone to update us on our weather and set our course and tell us how the other teams were doing. And every day we would try and guess the mileage we'd done in the previous day. And every day we asked them what we needed to do to make the boat go faster, whether it was our rowing technique, where we were sitting, the weight in the boat, whatever it was. And every day we were learning something new. And he would say to us, "There's no magic bullet, guys. It's the Atlantic. Just row harder." And that message, after about 2 or 3 weeks, started to wear a bit thin. But now that, and I personally think he should have said not just row harder, but row smarter, because we ably demonstrated we were very smart. But the point is that nothing really beats hard work. And again, that might be really obvious, but when you live that for 6 weeks, then you know how true it is. And number 4, this for me is again something that I learned again through this sort of experience, this whole idea, and I think it's really relevant now for everybody in the current environment we're living in, is this whole idea of just embracing uncertainty. And I think we're about 3 weeks into our journey, and we got a call from the safety officer to say that two boats had been spiked by a marlin. So when I say spiked, the spike of the marlin had gone straight through the bottom of the boat and come into the cabin. These marlins, a big Atlantic blue marlin can be about 5 meters long and up to about 800 kilograms or 1,800 pounds. So when 2 days later we got another call to say that 2 more boats had been spiked, it became a bit ridiculous. I mean, the first thing, which is obvious, is why were they actually telling us? It's not as if we could do anything about it. And particularly when you saw the picture of the spike going straight through the cabin, and the irony of it was that it was my cabin, the stern cabin. So I spent the next 3 weeks lying in my cabin, sort of almost in my head, I could hear the Jaws music, that very famous music that everyone knows, and imagining this sort of huge marlin speeding up from the deep to ram the boat. So, if it was hard enough to get sleep, anyway, it became even harder. Almost was thinking about sleeping in a press-up position to sort of make sure that I avoided. So life is full of surprises, and it will teach you something every day, particularly in somewhere like the ocean, which is such an extreme environment. So, yeah, you don't know what's going to hit you in the face, flying fish or otherwise. So embrace uncertainty and the unexpected. Try to see it as a gift in a way from a friendly marlin. And when we got to Antigua, the pictures and the images of seeing the actual boat with the spike on straight was just amazing. And we were lucky enough that didn't happen to us. Number 5 is the second of the second last lesson I wanted to share, which again is something that you'll have heard more and more about, I think, particularly in the last 18 months. But for us, it was the number one rule, and that rule was to be kind. When I think about the toughest part of the race, particularly the first couple of weeks, it wasn't the seasickness or the physical impact of the rowing on my body or mentally. It was the team dynamics that actually were the toughest part. So everyone is adjusting to this sort of mental and physical kind of struggle in their own way, and everyone had a sort of really different way of trying to deal with that hardship. Some people would kind of just get on with it. Some people would go into themselves. Some people would vocalize how they were feeling in a pretty unfiltered way. And because we rowed in pairs, you could really feel the other person's contribution when you were rowing. And we, on the hour, so in a 2-hour shift, on the hour, we would swap over. So I would row with one guy for the first hour and then another guy for the second hour. And in those first few weeks, it was really tough to listen to some of the dialogue, and you were super sensitive, I think, to what you might perceive to be somebody who maybe you felt was not pulling their weight. So the hardest part really became just coping with that emotional stuff and really almost trying not to judge people, by your own personal standards. I quickly realized that everything I wanted to say, I couldn't say. Because it wouldn't help. And the environment was so extreme, it wasn't as if you could kind of step off the boat and walk away. Inside of our cabin door, we had these 10 commandments, we called them, or team rules. And unfortunately, every time I read them, they made me feel sick. So I never actually managed to get past the first one. But the first one, by complete coincidence, was be kind. So I decided that if I couldn't say something kind, I just got to say nothing. So I was about blocking out what was going on or happening behind me or not happening behind me and trying to take your mind somewhere else. And as time went on, we all adapted and we got better and we get better every day. And you realize that the Atlantic is not a normal environment. You're not the boss like at work. You can't. You just row harder. You focus on your own contribution and accept everybody else's is going to be different. And be kind. Don't just sit in judgment or compare your effort to others. And before you say something or act in a certain way, it's really thinking about the consequences. Treating every word with caution. And in reality, if you can't be kind, it's just better to say nothing. So I just really believe that, and I think COVID's taught us that as well. Everyone's circumstances are so different that you just almost can't have an opinion, and that for me is super important. And last but not least, given my experience, the thing that I've promised myself is this whole idea of really just experiencing life, not just living it. Life is really short. It goes so super quick. Making every moment count is it sounds like a cliche, But when you've been through or been on a journey in the way that I have, you really learn that's so true. The world is such a big place. So don't just talk about it. Do stuff with people, family, friends, colleagues, people you care about. And stuff doesn't have to be as extreme as rowing the Atlantic, but I'm pretty sure it shouldn't be boring. It should make you feel some sort of mental or physical stretch. Otherwise, there's no personal growth. And that, to me, is something I've sort of taken into my next part of my journey, and having some kind of challenges is really important for me personally. And I think it gives you that sort of destination, and that's something to aim for. So when you introduced me, Dory, as CEO of LesMills, I think probably next year I'm going to change my job title to adventure. I think it's going to be the next thing for me. And next year we're having kind of got across the Atlantic, we sort of figured that maybe we should sort of keep going. So next year we're going to cycle across America, and that's the next challenge to keep us all moving forward. And a big part of this story for me has also been the people that we've sort of taken with us, and the people, family and friends that have supported, which is, you can only do that with those people. And part of that is also about the money we've managed to raise for two really wonderful charities. So when you can get are fortunate enough to get opportunities, let's grab them with both hands and really go for it. So yeah, that would be my sort of summary story, some of the learnings that I personally have had, and hopefully some of those things that people can resonate with and maybe be something they think about in their own lives.
Keith, your journey is absolutely amazing. Something that I'm sitting here thinking I'm so envious about, because I'm like, your grandkids and your great grandkids have something to talk about when they go to school. They're going to be like, my grandpop or my great granddad sailed across the Atlantic Ocean. And I'm sitting here thinking, I don't know if my grandkids have anything to say like that about me. So I kind of had a little envy. You're like a legend. I'm like, oh, you're going to be a legend in your family.
I'm pleased to say I don't have any grandkids yet,
right?
But my kids definitely, and that would be one of, if you were to ask me why I did this, that whole thing around my trying to inspire my kids to think really big. And yeah, one of my proudest moments was overhearing one of my boys talk about this to their mates, one of their friends, and I was sat there going, that's pretty cool.
That is really cool. So you definitely live up to the quote that you had earlier in your journey of, before you inspire others, you have to inspire yourself. I definitely say you inspired yourself, and now you're inspiring others. So that is super cool. Let's see, I know you've been asked this 100 times, but I feel like our listeners need for me to ask you this. Knowing what you know now, honestly, would you do it again?
I would. The irony of this conversation is actually, 2 days ago, somebody asked me whether I would do it next year because somebody had dropped out. But I would, but I probably wouldn't do the same journey. So, I think you heard me talk about, crossing the Atlantic and then thinking about, well, where do we go from here? So, yeah, I'd probably, I'd do it, but it'd be the Pacific, I think, would be the next ocean that needs crossed. And I think because you learn so much, my big thing is I'm quite competitive, but when you learn so much like that, you know what you would do differently. So there's a big part of me that, we wanted to do in 35 days, but the weather took over. So, a big part of me thinks, I could do it, but we learned so much, we could do it faster. So I would, but, I think everything's relative, and you know what you've got to deal with. So I think I would be better prepared.
All righty. Keith, thank you so much for joining us today. And if all of you out there listening would like to reach out to Keith, his contact details are on the show notes, which can be seen at fitnessbusinesspodcast.com. Or when you subscribe to the best show notes in the podcast world, they are emailed directly to you. So subscribe to the show notes at fitnessbusinesspodcast.com. In 30 seconds, I will introduce you to our industry expert, Kia Williams, who is next week's guest.
Did you know that the active ingredient in most disinfecting wipes has well-documented lung, skin, and reproductive health concerns? That active ingredient is called a quaternary ammonium compound, or a quat, not necessarily something you'd want in a health and wellness facility. VaporFresh disinfecting gym wipes avoid all quats and instead use an innovative citric acid chemistry to disinfect. Even with this greener chemistry, VaporFresh is still EPA registered to disinfect 99.9% of surfaces. VaporFresh is trusted by some of the most premier gyms and college rec centers nationwide. With 1,200 wipes per roll and 4 rolls per case, they offer an unbeatable value per wipe. Order today at vaporfresh.com or Amazon.
Quickfire 5.
It is time for our Quickfire 5 questions with Kia Williams. Kia is the Health and Wellness Chair for the NAACP Tarrant County chapter. She's also an author and she's a global presenter. Kia is everything. Kia, welcome to the Quickfire 5 questions. We're so happy to have you here today.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. Quickfire 5. My goodness, let's do it.
All right, we're going to do question number 1. What is a life lesson you learned from the pandemic?
Oh, wow. I would say stop and pause. The pandemic, the stay-at-home mandate has definitely afforded us this very rare opportunity to stop, to pause, to have that awkward silence amongst ourselves and use to really maybe quiet out outside noise and hear your own thoughts for once in your life, So I think that we've definitely learned a little bit more about ourselves that we've been ignoring for quite some time.
Oh, what a great answer. I like that one a lot. Here we go. Number 2. If you, Kia, could play a character in any movie, what character would it be?
These questions are so much fun. I would say maybe Storm from X-Men, because I don't know, I want to control lightning and weather because I will always be on vacation, it feels like to me, but also to use your superpowers to change the world. I'm all about it. So Storm from X-Men.
All right. Great answer. Love the name Storm. And I like that you want to use your superpowers. So awesome. Number 3, please complete this statement. Sunday morning, you can find me
sitting on my porch in my rocking chair, having a good cup of coffee.
Maybe I could come join you sometime.
You are more than welcome, honey.
All right, here we go. What is your number 1 book recommendation we should all read?
Ooh, I would say Notes of a Native Son is actually a collection of essays by my absolute favorite author, James Baldwin. And it's mostly tackling issues of race in America and Europe. And it's different points of views from different characters, different voices. I think you'll learn a lot about true diversity, inclusion, and equity by reading that collection of stories.
All right. And that is so fitting for your topic today. So Speaking of your topic, I am now going to hand it over to you. You're going to give us your best elevator pitch, why our listeners, our FBP family, should come back next week for your episode.
Absolutely. In our next episode, we're talking about diversity, inclusion, and equity in fitness. And these topics, these subject matters are not only the right thing to do within your fitness practices, within your businesses, but it's absolutely necessary. It is imperative for your bottom line. It is imperative for the people that you serve. It's imperative for your own social good. So you got to come back and have this conversation with us.
Okay, I love the passion. Kia Williams coming next week, and she's going to talk about creating inclusion practices in your business. Put your hands together and please welcome Kia Williams. Kia is the Health and Wellness Chair for the NAACP Tarrant County chapter. She's also an author. She's also a global presenter, and she's also awesome. Let's find out more about why you and our FBP family need to tune in next week to listen to Kia.
Hey, Fitness Business Podcast family, Sarah Pellegrino here, your host of The Value Proposition. Each month, I'm bringing you an insightful conversation with a different supplier so you can learn the value they bring to the industry above and beyond their product or service. Don't miss this month's episode, The Value Proposition for Franchising in Today's Market with Oxygen Yoga and Fitness, going live Friday, August 20th. We dive deep into what you should consider before buying into a franchise, what sets Oxygen Yoga and Fitness apart from other franchises, and advice on how to know if your concept is ready to be franchised or not. Download episode 378 of the Fitness Business Podcast, The Value Proposition for Franchising in Today's Market, anywhere you listen to your podcasts or from our website. You can watch the vodcast on our YouTube channel or on our website, fitnessbusinesspodcast.com.
I guarantee you're going to just love next week's show. Kia shares the importance of diversity and inclusion, not only amongst your employees, but also with your members. So make sure you subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast player, or even better yet, let us do the work for you, and we'll send you the show. Subscribe at fitnessbusinesspodcast.com. Now I leave you with this. If you have been sitting on a personal goal or something that you've always wanted to accomplish, what are you waiting for? Go do it, or at least get the process started. Sometimes professing your goal is a good start. And you know what? We would love to encourage you and see you through it. So go to our social media page and let us know what your goal is. And you know what? I promise you, you have a whole lot of people out there that are willing to support you. Right, FBP family? Right. Thank you to our founding partner, Active Management, our partners, Keep Me, MyZone, Discover Strength, Tribe Team Training, and One Fit Stop, and our advertisers, Rex Roundtables, MX Metrics, and Vapor Fresh. We believe what you leave behind is not what's engraved in stone monuments, but is woven into the lives of others.